meeting together, and I'm a new department, new district manager. We're in the big regional meeting, and I get in there and I'm like, I don't have anything to contribute. I don't know anything, right? So I'm just sitting still, kind of absorbing it all in. And so Anthony looks at me, he says, "Koo, you have a seat at the table. Speak up. That seat is yours for a reason. You did something, you are doing stuff to earn you a seat at the table. And so you have to learn how to use your voice. Because if you don't use your voice, you're actually withholding it from all of us. You bring a different perspective that any one of us would have. So I think for us, everyone in this room, we bring a different perspective than anybody else can have. You are made individually different, and you have a perspective that you are withholding if you don't speak up. And so I think for me, like being self-aware and knowing that if I don't speak up, I'm withholding what somebody else needs, okay? So I think that was the first thing for me, is just like really being self-aware of who I am. I think another thing that we have to know when we are self-aware, don't try to be anybody else. You are you. If I try to act like somebody else, everyone would know I'm fake, okay? You have to be you, or else you're gonna fail, okay? No one wants another Koo Yang. They want a Liz, or they want an Isaac. They don't want another Koo Yang, okay? So those things really have helped guide me in like what I do on a day-to-day basis. Somebody mentioned accountability earlier. I think a quality of a leader is accountability. Self-accountability, and then accountability to those that you lead. And I think when we talk through accountability, every single time we talk about accountability, the negative thing comes in your mind, right? Oh man, I'm gonna be accountable, somebody's gonna get in trouble. Accountability is actually a really good thing, okay? I wanna know that I'm accountable to my team. I wake up every single morning. I know there are 3,500 people that are looking to me for leadership. If I have a bad day, I'm letting them down, which in turn lets their families down, okay? So I'm accountable to them every single day. I tell folks all the time, like my territory, my region is in the mountains of North Carolina, down into Georgia, South Carolina. And so I show up into these small little towns in the middle of nowhere. Asian guy shows up in the middle of nowhere in the mountains of North Carolina. Imagine how that looks, okay? You walk up, you're like, "Hey, I'm your regional director." They're like, "You sure?" Right? During the hurricane, I actually showed up to one of my stores, and there were two young guys in there. It was closed, and so I show up. I'm like, "Hey, I'm your regional director. I'm just here to lean in, offer some support, and give you some help if you need it." They're like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yes, I'm sure. Here's my name tag." I show up with my name tag. They're like, I don't know you. I don't think you're a regional director." I said, "Okay, how can I prove to you that I'm your regional director?" And so they're like, "Well, call my DM and let me talk to my DM." So I call the DM. I said, "Hey, Sarah, these guys, like, listen, they're doing a really good job. They're trying to verify who I am, but they won't let me in." And so Sarah is like, "Hey, yeah, that's cool. Please let him in." And so you show up, right? And you're like, I mean, we're kind of different from the folks in the mountains of North Carolina, right? But if I don't show up every single day for my people, and I don't show up and be a leader for them every single day, I fail them. And then at the end of the day, they fail, and then their family suffers, okay? So that's how I look at my personal accountability. Now, team accountability, they are accountable to me, right? So when I say something, they kind of have to do it. Not because they have to, but it should be because they want to, right? And so accountability is good because folks that are working really hard, right? Like all of us in here are really hard workers. How do you feel about somebody on your team that's not a hard worker? You don't like them, right? You're like, dang, I'm busting my butt off and that dude is getting paid the same amount of money as me and he is not doing anything. So when we don't have accountability in our workplaces, we actually impact the entire team, okay? And then no one wants to work because we create this environment that it's okay to not do anything, okay? So I think for me, accountability is one of those like buzzwords, but we have to apply it every single day. Show up. As a leader, you have to be there. You have to be present. And when I say show up, it's not just showing up every day for work. Obviously that's important, right? We have to be there. We have to, like, our yes needs to be our yeses. But in those moments where your team actually needs you, and we'll talk about it like during the team building, but when your team needs you, they need to know that their leader is going to be there for them. So if they have a death in the family, as a leader, you need to be there, okay? If they have a birth in their family, as a leader, you need to be there. Showing up means more to these folks that report to us, that work with us, more than you'll ever know. I tell my direct reports every single day. Every single night, your folks go home and they have dinner around the dinner table. And they talk about their supervisor. Every one of them. We talk about how good of a day it was or how horrible of a day it was. We get to determine what they talk about. I get to determine if those are good conversations or if they are negative conversations. That's all determined by me. I can't change what they talk about. They're going to talk about you. We live, as leaders, I tell my folks all the time, we live in glass houses. Everyone can see in, okay? Everyone sees what we're doing. We can't do anything about it, okay? So we have to represent ourselves very well. So I think showing up not only well for ourselves, but for our people makes all the difference in the world. Listen, I'm still old school, I got paper, okay? And then I think Rick brought up humility. No one likes a know-it-all, all right? You've seen it, like you walk into a place, the guy's like, I know it, you can't tell me anything. What do you think of that guy when you leave? Yeah, you're probably like, I don't want to work for that guy, right? Or forget about him, right? So, it's okay to not know it. Okay? I walked into my job, so I've only been with them for about 7 months now, and I don't claim to know everything about retail. But I say, hey, listen, I do know about retail, but I don't know about the Dollar General way. So you guys have to teach me, okay? And so what you do is you set that tone of, hey, I'm actually here to listen more than I am to talk, and I think people will 100% listen to you. But no one likes a fake person, and I talked about it earlier. Like when you show up and you're humble, people can see that there's a true person underneath there versus this boss who just comes in and tells us what to do and leaves, and he has no idea what we got to go through, right? You just come in, you tell us what to do, you don't know what we'll go through, you don't know how to do it, but you want us to do it. No one likes that, okay? So I think just that whole humility aspect of it. Servant leadership. I think this table brought that up earlier. Servant leadership to me is probably one of my most important traits when I look for somebody I'm going to hire. You have to get your feet dirty, your hands dirty, or else the team will never respect you, okay? When they need you to go help them clean bathrooms, guess what? Go clean bathrooms. When they need you to go push buggies in, go push buggies in. They need to see that you're willing to do what you want them to do. Now, I say that with the caveat of, if you're doing that every single time, that's actually not servant leadership, okay? There's huge difference between you doing all the work and your team seeing you do some of the work, right? And so imagine, I tell my team, we're in a war, okay? And we're all like charging against the enemy. I would rather have a general that's sitting up like 20,000 feet that sees that there's an ambush waiting 100 yards away from us that's gonna get us, versus the guy that's on the ground going with the troops that don't see the ambush coming, right? There's a time for both of those. There's a time for somebody to be on the ground, and there's a time for somebody to be up in the Black Hawk copter saying, hey, listen, there's an ambush waiting for you 100 yards, do not go there. And I think we often mistake the two. We think a servant leader needs to be in the trenches every single day doing the work. Yes, that needs to happen sometimes. But it also means that the other strategic stuff is not gonna happen. The ball will get dropped if you're always on the ground with that team, always doing stuff. So when I hear the term servant leadership, I think it's one of those buzzwords that people are like, man, I want a servant leadership. Sometimes actually what they want is for you to go do their job for them, okay? And for them to just kind of watch you. And listen, leading teams, I've seen it all. Like, I've seen it where I go in there and work really hard, and guess what happens? The team that I'm supposed to help, they step back. All right, let's watch the boss do it, okay? And so let's not confuse servant leadership with good leadership, okay? I think there's definitely a time for both of them, but you have to learn how to separate when to get in and when to pull out, okay? And then just some practical ways on practicing servant leadership. So I've been, in the retail world for a long time, and when I was at Lowe's, there were, we called it 100 days of hell. So it's basically from like Easter to about Labor Day. It is prime season for Lowe's, right? And so I found myself going out and I posted it on Facebook a few times, like loading straw into customers' cars, right? Like, I didn't do it often, right? But I did it enough to where the loader that actually was doing that job saw me, and he came over and he's like, hey boss man, why are you out here? I said, well, because it's hot and I want to help you out. He was like, I've never seen this before, right? It's those little moments that they get to go home and they're like, hey, my store manager came out and helped me today, versus he's in the AC in the office chilling out while we're out here working our butts off, right? And so those little moments, again, if I did that every single day, then I'm an overpaid loader, right? But it's those little moments that we get to actually show our teams that, yeah, it's hot. I'm gonna come out here with you, bring you some water, and take care of you so that you can see that I'm not just the guy sitting in the back room, okay? So that's kind of like my lens of leadership, okay? So I'm gonna talk a little bit about like building a team, okay? Because I don't know about you guys, but I know a lot of you guys have like restaurants and you're running $1 million businesses. You can't do it by yourself. If you try to do it by yourself, you won't last. You'll burn out, okay? So just building a high-performing team. Guys, the team is only going to be as strong as the leader is, okay? Your team will never do more than you, okay? They're not gonna come in earlier than you. They're not gonna stay late.